Hello and welcome. My name is Ted Stewart. Hey, thanks everyone so much for joining me today. Today's webinar is going to be on in the topic of functional safety about the Site Safety Index and which site is your safest plant. The reason for this webinar came up, we did a blog a few weeks ago in regards to the horrible incident that happened over in China, and we'll get into more details about that and kind of explain what the Site Safety Index truly is all about. So thanks so much everyone for joining us today. If you aren't already, go ahead and mute your microphone, adjust your speaker volume. If there's any questions on the right-hand side of your screen, go ahead and use that mechanism to type in all of your questions at the end of this webinar. I will make sure I get them answered. All right, thanks again. Let's go ahead and start. I am Ted Stewart. I am the Program Development and Compliance Manager here for Exida. I have a little over 10 years of experience, all in automation, manufacturing, lean process improvement. A little bit of information about myself. Started the career with Lockheed Martin as a test engineer. I then moved over to Harris Corporation with Wireless Products Groups, which was a lot of fun. I got to make a lot of small black boxes that could locate and track people. So it was pretty neat. I got to understand the life cycle, saw products from the design phase all the way to obsolescence. Our products only lasted a year or two due to technology changing and needing the latest and greatest sizes and features. So these products were very fast through their life cycle phase. And now I'm here at Exida. I've been here for about 6 years. I started off with doing some quality management stuff. I help run the OEM certification division, and now I get to be responsible for a lot of the new program development standards. A lot of these standards people fall asleep to. I actually really enjoy, and we're helping break through some of these different industries and help people, whether it's functional safety, cybersecurity, automotive, machinery, robotics, you name it, we're getting ourselves into it, whether it's in regards to products, systems, or even for people as well. As far as engineering is concerned, yeah, there's other things that we do get to do when time permits. I love cycling, and also my wife and I are really huge into renovation projects for houses. Just kind of a fun fact. Sometimes we're always so business oriented. It's kind of nice to share some other things. You'll see here the screen in front of you. Our company kind of is divided into 6 different areas. We do support or consulting. We have an end user business that deals around functional safety, alarm management, cybersecurity. We have tools. We have product certification. We have training, reference material, and of course, personnel certification, whether that's in functional safety and cybersecurity as well. Got a couple quick more introduction slides because we always have new people, and it's kind of fun to share a little bit of information about us, and then we'll dive straight into the meat of today's presentation. This was kind of an eye-opening in 2015. This is what got us really excited and actually really helped us grow, is once we realized that in 2015, ARC did a report, and they actually showed us that we were the global leader in safety certification devices. And honestly, we had no idea. We were just chugging along, working as fast as we can, helping as many people as we could. And well, at least for me, this report came out, and I was actually kind of shocked. I was like, wow, this is fantastic. And our CEO, or Dr. Goebel, he was like, well, I'm not happy enough, and he goes, that pie chart doesn't say where everybody, who everybody is. And so he had asked them to break it apart, and this year or last year, we got the results back, and now you can at least see who makes up that pie chart on the right-hand side compared to what it said on the bottom left-hand side. So it's kind of exciting to see how well we are doing. So thank you all, for everyone even on this call, because you most likely played a part in helping us keep moving forward. And that's why we do these webinars, is because we really want to help educate. And anytime there's any kind of situation going on, we don't want things to become an issue. We want, if they're a challenge, let us know, and we're going to help try and resolve those things. And that's another reason what we're doing here today, because we had that issue with the Site Safety Index. People started asking us questions. Well, look, how can this be prevented? What's going on? I kind of wrote a blog because this is the reason for why I come to work every day. It's because we need to find ways to help make people safer. And sure, we might be a certification company and a consulting company and all these other different branches, software company. And for me, it doesn't matter how many things we help people certify, these manufacturers. We have to make sure the end users are using them correctly. And even if they are using them correctly, the thing that doesn't come into play when you start talking about like your PFDavg is people, right? And that's for, I mean, nothing is known for sure, but when you start thinking about this chemical plant, right? Look here, and it says an inspection last year by the State Administration of Work Safety found 13 safety problems, including extensive leaks, a lack of safety training, poor site management, and a shortage of operating procedures and technical specifications within that tank area. So yeah, so they're still trying to come down to the root causes of what happened here, but it just brings back up why we do what we do and why that safety index is so important, and so many people still to this day might not even realize what the site safety index is. And so hopefully this quick webinar will help share some information, and then after the fact, if the more information is needed, if you'd like to get some of the free references that we already have out there to help you get started, right? Because the last thing you need to do is have to worry about a PO to do something to make your plant safer. So there are free things out there that I'll get you guys links to, white papers and all kinds of great material that if you didn't know it was accessible, I'll make sure you know now. So you may wonder, why the terminology for site safety index as opposed to maybe company safety index? And it's well documented that a safety product may exhibit a safety performance less than that specified by that manufacturer or by that FMEDA, that failure mode effect diagnostic analysis. And even within the same company, right, failure rate estimations actually derived from failure rate data can significantly vary from site to site. We have studies that now have shown that failure rates estimated from field failure data for identical modules in the same industrial application exhibit a difference in estimated failure rates for that same product from site to site. And typically when we compared to inherent and predicted failure rates for the same exact product, the field failure data estimated approximately, let's say, 1.5 to 3 times higher than, and obviously the variance there is depending on the product type. But site audits have attributed to these differences, to all these different similarities in the end user activities that are starting to vary from site to site. And this variation in end user activities can be captured now by that site safety index. And that's what's so critical, is that while company-wide policies and procedures will impact the safety achieved, the possibly different ways company-wide directives are implemented on that site-by-site basis requires that a site index be measured at the site level. And what I'm really trying to say here is that you want to develop that safety culture, right? Human factors play a part in safety system performance. So what's the point in having certified products and spending all this money to really have a plant that people are just not going to listen to? Right? You need to make sure that if you have like I say in here, imperfect repair, improper calibration, faulty installation, all of these things are completely separate from spending all this time. I need a SIL 3 capable system or device so that I can put everything together. But hold on, if you're not using it correctly, if you don't have these personnel in place, personnel competency plays such a larger role than many people realize. And manufacturers are doing their part here by getting the FMEDAs done, certifying these products so that they can help end users create these systems depending on their risk tolerance levels or the risk reduction factors. But if end users competency isn't there, it means nothing. And another thing that's very interesting is, so people will say, okay, we want you to come on site, take a look, evaluate us, and they'll pick their best site. And so they'll pay people to come in, whether it's us or anyone else, and they'll analyze their site and say, hey, look, everything's thumbs up, you look great, continue doing what you're doing, we'll check the box that all of your sites are great. Wrong. Okay, and that's the thing that a lot of people are missing, is a great site. If that's what you're evaluating, all your other sites get masked, and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, we're great too. But that's not the case. You need to make sure you're evaluating every single site. And if you're someone in the management field, this is something you should pay very close attention to And really, almost you could even assign whoever your plant managers are on these different sites, challenge them. Do you have the best site in our company? Here's a checklist. Go through this checklist, fill it out, and give it back to me. And actually see which sites are following the regulations, the rules, the policies, the procedures, are they doing their proof testing on time? There's a lot of things that they should be looking at. And this is one great way for you to start analyzing it. All right, so that was kind of my intro into everything. Now let's kind of get into some definitions, and I'll give you a couple of examples as to what we're looking for when we're doing these types of evaluations for your site safety index. So what this is, it's a model, it's a simple approach. It's based on concepts from IEC 62158, and it's really to more accurately account for site-specific operational practices. All right, I'll read a little bit here just to kind of set the framework here, but really, this is used, and this is the interesting part, is because it's used to adjust your safety metrics. Why? Because all of the computed under the assumptions that human factors play no part in that safety system performance. What I mean is, when we're calculating failure rates and we're doing all these metrics, safety metrics, none of them take into fact the human condition, the human factor, right? That's what Site Safety Index does. It now puts that into play. All right, and it does it so on a site-by-site basis. Now, this approach allows, this is what I was talking about before, this approach allows that a site with a strong safety presence to actually take credit and to get kudos that their accomplishment, that they're doing everything right and not masking issues at other sites, right? So let's just say that you evaluate a site that's not doing as well as you. All of a sudden now, if you don't have other evaluations done on all the other sites, everybody's taken to that level, right? And then now your failure rates are changing. You might think you're doing better, now you're not anymore. And so there's a lot of things that come to play, and we'll go over and explain how certain things within a site really do affect, let's just call it your PFD average. So when you do a site safety index evaluation, there's going to be two different ways. Okay, the first way is your external audit. The second way is a questionnaire. One, you can have a third party come out and perform it, a very extensive review, and the other one, you yourself today could actually do yourself. And we provide one, no charge. Why? Because if a PO comes into play of safety, we don't want to feel responsible that you couldn't at least do some preliminary work up front, right? So let's talk about the external audit here. The international standard 61511, it lists that the requirements that must be met for the entire safety lifecycle process, right, that you have to meet them all. And in an on-site audit, it can be verified that the site meets these requirements in combination with additional detailed requisites really for your operation and maintenance activities. Okay, and now additionally, all safety and lifecycle procedures, they're going to be audited to be sure that the procedures are adequate to support the requirements and really that they are being correctly followed at that site. So the outcome of this audit is we're going to generate a report, and it's going to include what your site safety index score is, as well as any recommendations for changes and improvements. And that interpretation of the measured site safety index level is going to be discussed, and I'll show you what the different levels are here in the next upcoming slides. Now let's say, hey, you know what, that sounds all well and good, but we're not ready just yet. Or, hey, it's going to take me a while to get something in place to have somebody come out to review these different sites. Is there anything I can do out first? And the answer is yes, of course. So if there's a site and you're interested in acquiring an approximate, let's just say, measure of its current state of safety culture, there's a questionnaire that we have. It's about 40 different questions or 40 different items, and it's going to represent a subset of the information gathered in a complete audit. These questions are going to cover different types of activities and practices of the life cycle for that SIF. And it's an, let's say, installation and commissioning. We'll talk about safety validation, operation and maintenance, SIF modification, decommissioning, things like that. Here are some sample questions. These questions here are mainly for the operation and maintenance phase of that life cycle. The complete set of questions can be made available, and how these questions are answered are going to be things like always, often, never, not applicable. And each response is going to be subjected to a weighted scoring system. And that total score you receive determines an approximate SSI level, or site safety index level, for that site. And so the basis of the validity of using a questionnaire for determining SSI is an acceptable practice. All right, and that's per the standard, per IEC 61508. It does allow the use of a questionnaire to determine the beta factor that really describes the extent of the common cause failure to be modeled when you are evaluating the safety performance of, let's say, redundant SIF architectures. So now let's take a look at that site safety index model. That SSI number, it goes from 0 to 4. It's an indication of the level of site activities and practices that really contribute to that safety performance of a SIFs for that site. Now, if you see this table here, it really details the interpretation of each SSI level, and it kind of mirrors the level of SIL, right, safety integrity level assignment, that really the SSI 4 implies that you are meeting every single requirement of IEC 61508 and IEC 61511, and you're doing it perfectly. There's no degradation in that safety performance due to any end user activities or practices. Okay, you see here SSI 4, it says perfect. Repairs are always done correctly. Testing is always done on time and correctly on schedule. Equipment is always replaced before the end of useful life. Everything is perfect. What do we see? Well, we see a lot of SSI 2. We see a handful of SSI 3. We see a lot of SSI 1. But keep in mind, because I know the questions are going to be asked, no, the answer is no. You don't have to be perfect. Put in mind, where is your site located? Okay, can you accept a higher risk? Are you in the desert around no one? So if something did happen, is your plant automated so that there's no one working at that plant and it just runs on its own? What is the level of risk? What's the tolerable risk you're willing to accept? And depending on that factor, that's where you can probably take where your SSI level should be. Okay, if you're around a certain X amount of population, or you have so many people working on the plant, or your tanks are located in a certain area, you might be looking at SSI 3, right? You need to make sure everything's done on time, or if something does slip, you get right on it and you make sure you get it replaced before that useful life, or if your proof testing exceeds a little bit, make sure you get done right away, right when you realize it, and you do a really good job to prevent any things like that, any kind of negligence, because, as you saw in the chemical plant in China, wow, I mean, talk about negligence. And here in another current event, what about the Boeing aircraft, right? Just think what happened there. Boeing, I mean, aviation, they have some very strict regulations. The FAA, excuse me, I mean, that Federal Aviation Administration, I mean, they have some strict things. But just think, somebody made a change, okay? Someone in software or what have you, right? I don't know the exact details here, but they made changes, and that anti-stall system was really affected. So what happened is, just think if they went through functional safety, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Who knows if they have these procedures in place, and they did an impact analysis or a modification of change, and they took this change and they put it back, and they figured out what when they were making this change or this upgrade or whatever you may, why didn't they take another look? Why didn't they see what things could have been impacted by making this change? Did they do that? Did they not do it? Obviously, that's being discussed. But just think, if they had these practices in place and they performed this correctly, could they have prevented this? Well, yeah, if they would have just done the testing and brought it back further in the earlier stages of the life cycle, they could have redid their testing. They could have seen this now, and this could have been changed. Once again, nothing is determined yet. No reports are out there, but just theoretically thinking, someone made a change and they didn't do the due diligence of retesting to make sure nothing else was impacted by that change. Interesting. And so something like this, the people that are on these plants, even if the procedures in place, maybe if they even had all this documentation in place, if they're not following them, what's the use? All right, let's take a look at how it even impacts a SIL rating, right? So there's specific ways in which the SSI modifies key variables, whether it's device failure rates, proof test effectiveness, and they're all going to impact your PFD average. So your SIL and your risk reduction factor, as well as other safety metrics, okay? And I'll explain detail in later in this presentation with some additional examples, but now let's look and show you an SSI-4 system here. Okay, if you look at here, you achieve a SIL level of 2, your risk reduction is 113. Okay, so that's everything looks good. You're slightly greater than the requirement of this for SIL 2 here. If we go to SIL 3, oh, and I'm sorry, SSI 4, right? Okay, so I said that. So it's saying everything is perfect, 100%. Everything you do is on time, no issues at all. Let's say you're great, but you're not perfect. Because you were so close on that risk reduction factor, now you drop down to 98, right? If you put an SSI at 3. You're truly, so if you were to just throw in there, and you don't factor in the human factor, you don't have this SSI into that site, you might think that you're operating at a SIL 2 level in reality, because once you put in the human factor, it drops you, right? And so now you're only operating, and you only achieved a SIL 1 for this system, this plant, or this location, and so it's you think you're doing better than you really are until you put in this site safety index number. And it's a very interesting thing to look at. It's kind of fun to play with. So if anyone has Excellentia, it'd be fun to even just take this questionnaire, throw it in there, figure out what your SSI is, and then start playing with your numbers and see how you truly are, operating too, and see if you're still okay, thumbs up or thumbs down. No one's judging you as long as you're taking a proactive approach to it. Plus, what could you learn from it when you do find out the differences there? So when we look at the site safety index model, there's several factors that have been identified. These are some things that we'll look at. We'll look at the commission testing. We'll look at safety validation tests, proof test procedures, proof test documentation, fair diagnostics and repair procedures. We'll look at your device useful life tracking and replacement process, your SIS modification procedures, your SIS decommissioning procedures, and of course there's others as well. But that's a nice list. Some of your meat that you'll want to start evaluating. So why do we start looking at all those different categories? And the main reason why, and I've already led to this, is that the key variables in your PFDavg calculations are truly impacted at a site-by-site level, okay? And what we're going to do is, what's nice, because some people are like, yeah, but there's no funding, there's no way to justify. But now what you can do with the site safety index is you can now have something to justify improving those operational processes, right? You can now have something that will show, okay, here's my life cycle cost compared to, if I improve my processes, this is what we'll ultimately get, right? Because what you also see is even failures from site to site. Some sites create more failures, more returns happen. Why? Because they don't have that quality management system in place. Maybe the people aren't following their procedures, things are getting done differently. And so some sites perform better than others. Some sites get more products out the door. Some sites are running, right, with less downtime. So there's a lot of different things now that you can evaluate after you look at your site safety index. So what are impacted by these site practices? We'll do one example for each. We'll look at failure rates of each product. We'll look at the actual proof test intervals, the test effectiveness, the mean time to restore, and of course, probability of the initial failure. So the first one here, failure rates are increased in lower SSI levels. Makes sense, right? Because why? When you do an FMEDA, what do? You assume that all the products are installed in the correct environment, and they're all verified according to the manufacturer specifications. Another thing that's assumed when you do an FMEDA, all products are chosen within materials capable with any process chemicals. Another thing, products are all commissioned and calibrated according to the manufacturer's instructions. This isn't always necessarily true. So the lower your SSI level, the higher your failure rates become. Makes sense. What about your proof test intervals? Of course, these are going to increase, right? So in site surveys done, it's apparent that proof tests were postponed in sites where a high level of operational discipline was not present. Not everybody's perfect. People make mistakes. However, it happens more and more to different sites. So it's very interesting to see when you go onto these sites, how they're operating. Are they doing things correctly? Because actual proof test intervals do increase when you start looking at lower SSI levels, and everything affects that PFDavg number. What about your effectiveness of that proof test? Well, of course, it's going to decrease when procedures aren't clear, right? The test personnel, they don't have enough time to do their work. Testing documents, another thing that, because I have a passion for like Six Sigma, lean process improvement, sometimes you try and improve a process to cut, you call it cut corners, but you try to, reduce WIP, right? Work in progress, or you try to streamline different areas. Well, be very careful, because if you don't give operators enough time or test personnel to do their job, all of a sudden you're now actually hurting yourself. You're not improving anything. So sometimes management can get into these trends of everything needs to be improved. We need to get so much, get all this stuff. We need less downtime, and we need to pay the bills. But be careful, because you might be doing more harm if you don't give people enough time to actually do their job. So once again, proof test effectiveness, if that gets hurt, then it's actually going to hurt you, and you'll actually, when you start achieving a lower SSI level. What about mean time to restore, right? Now this is going to increase when your diagnostic procedures are not, if you're not well documented, it's not clear, it's not well understood. This will increase if there's not proper tools ready, right, to restore, to fix. So, some of these restore efforts will not be successful if you don't have the right personnel given the right amount of time to perform or document these results. Just think if they don't do it right the first time, and then you need a second effort, right? So that MTTR will increase with a lower SSI level. One other example here for you is that, products used in that SIF may not operate properly if they haven't been installed, calibrated, tested during a complete commissioning process. So once again, if things aren't clear, if time's not available, there's a probability of initial failure that will increase. Okay, so as your SSI level increases, your probability of initial failure decreases, and vice versa. So as you have a lower SSI level, you will actually have a higher probability of initial failure. And these things make sense, but there are things that you have to think about. And so many people just put together certified systems, and they don't think about the people. And if they do think about the people, they're not giving enough respect to those areas. So really, the Site Safety Index model, as I start concluding here, it does provide more realistic PFDavg results. You can now compare simple adjusting failure rates. It allows sites with a strong presence to take credit for it. You can show an impact of different operational policies, and and it really does. It can show benefits of improved operational processes. So you can now justify these improvements as well. What I'd like to do, and I'm gonna, in the next slide here, I'm gonna share with everybody the different links to where you can get all this information. This is something else I think people take for granted. There's so many great webinars out there to help you perform in areas that maybe you don't have the expertise, but we've probably done a topic on anything you could think of. So if you're not on the YouTube channel, get on there and at least take a look. If you're not on Facebook or LinkedIn, if you want to link up with me, let me know. But we're always giving out free stuff and helping you if you have questions. I mean, sure, if you ask too many questions, we'll send you a bill. But if you ask normal questions and you just want some helpful hand, I mean, come on, we're here. That's what we're here to do. We want to help everybody. As far as competency for personnel, think about it. Who do you have right now that might need some help, right? Do you need functional safety, machine safety, automotive, burner management? I mean, there's courses for everyone, and there's even now courses to do it online. You don't even have to go anywhere, because we've actually realized that there's a lot of training budgets that are getting slashed, and they have to stay at their desk. Well, don't hurt your competency by not being able to travel. Just do it from your office. So, here we go. So this is what I wanted to share. There's 3 key white papers that I want everyone to download. Read them when you can, but at least download them. They don't cost you anything, right? If you need them, email me. My email's there at the bottom. I'll send you a link for all 3 of these. But the key variables needed for PFDavg calculation. I want you to look at the safety culture. Oh, sorry, the middle one's the one, right? This is the white paper on the safety culture. Send me a link if you want, or send me an email if you'd like the where the site safety index questionnaire is, right? The one that you can do yourself. Send me an email. I'll send it to you. I don't believe I have it in here, but then there's also a white paper on the actual human factors in functional safety. Very interesting read too. So let me go and take a look at these questions if there are any. But once again, if you want to connect with me, please do. I can help you out wherever you need to. And then, of course, go down there. All the previous recorded webinars, they're right there in our channel. It's very, very helpful. I look at them all the time too. So I'm still learning. So questions here. Where can I get such of these simple questions? Awesome. If you don't mind, send me a quick email, Madi, and I will help you out. Yeah, just tstewart@exida.com. It's on the screen. Perfect. And I'll send you a link to those questions, but it is on our Exida website if you want to try and find it yourself. So which level was applied to a remote IO used for controlling oil wells? Is it SSI 3? There's a lot of factors. What I would say is I'll send you this, Madi, I'd send you this SSI evaluation. Go through it, answer those questions, and see what you come up with, and act as if you're using or wherever that site's located, because you need to know where your site's located. You'll want to know a lot of different factors. Like I can't just say, oh yeah, for that application, always be an SSI 3, because what happens if you're controlling oil wells and nobody's on the facility, or maybe you only have one person on this huge platform? I don't know what you have. I don't know what the setup is. So you might not be required to have such a high SSI 3, right? Look at your tolerable risk. What's your risk reduction factor? Plug in your SSI 2 with your failure rates in that PFDavg, and then it will tell you where you should be. And that's kind of the best way to do it. All right, good questions. Well, that was all the questions for today. I hope everybody found this useful. Please, please, please send me an email. I'll get you a link to that site safety index evaluation form, or the questionnaire, sorry. And if you want some more white paper references, send me an email. Let me know what you're looking for. Ask those questions. We're here to help you. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care for now, everybody. Bye-bye.